So we've all heard of the phrase, practice makes perfect. However, there is a right way to practice and there's a wrong way to practice. When we know how to practice in a way that's effective and efficient, we are more likely to see the results that we're looking for, and also more likely to make progress in our development. Hi, my name is Crystal Diaz. I'm a singer and vocal coach at CSMA Studio and co-founder of the Online Vocal Academy, where we help aspiring singers, speakers, coaches, and content creators who feel insecure about being heard go from that place of insecurity to discovering the brilliance of their voices so that they can share their gifts more confidently with others. So in this Tip of the Week video, I'm going to be talking about practicing with intention. Now, before we dive in, I want to let you know that I've just released a brand new 3-part mini training called The First 3 Steps to Free Your Voice. And it's created for anybody who uses their voice a lot in their work. And what it does is it summarizes pretty much what I share whenever somebody comes for a first-time lesson with me. And on top of that, you'll get a PDF download with the training that gives you very clear action steps that you can follow if you want to start going down this path of vocal discovery. The link is in the description box, or you can head on over to onlinevocalacademy.net/3 steps. onlinevocalacademy.net/3 steps. So first up, what does practicing with intention actually mean? Well, it means that you are singular in your focus. I want to share with you a quote by Deepak Chopra. So I've been listening to the Audible book of his 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, and a quote from the book is, he says, "Attention energizes, intention transforms." When you are practicing with intention, it means that you are placing your attention on one specific skill or area that you want to explore or develop. Okay, so one specific thing. You're not placing your attention on 50 different things, just one thing, or maybe 2, but definitely no more than 3. All right, use that as a guide. Now, does that mean there aren't other areas that you want to improve on? Of course not. There could be simultaneously many areas that you feel you want to improve on. But during your practices, it's not going to help you if your attention is scattered. It's much more effective to focus in, zone in on the areas that you want to work on specifically during that practice session. So this is what intentional practicing means. It means you are being intentional about where you are placing your attention, where you are driving and focusing your energy. That's how you're going to be able to achieve noticeable results and the transformation that you are looking for. All right, so why is this important? Well, I touched on it a little bit just now. It's because if you are trying to fix everything, you end up fixing nothing, right? We all know that. We all try to do 50 million things at one time. Multitasking has been scientifically proven to not actually be an effective thing or an effective skill set to actually have. Not only are trying to tackle so many different things, but we overwhelm ourselves mentally because all we're doing is we're thinking about all these different things that we want to improve. So the problems feel insurmountable because we're stacking them up in our head. So why else is this important? Well, I want to introduce you to this concept, this domino effect that I talk a lot about in my trainings with my students, is this idea that, yes, maybe in any given moment, as a vocalist, you may have all these different things that you feel you want to improve about your vocal technique. I don't have enough air. I want to improve my high notes, my low notes, my middle notes. My mixed voice isn't good. My chest voice, my head. There could be many different things that we want to improve. But 9 times out of 10, when I work with students, it's not a case of let's tackle every single one of those problems individually. It's let's look at what is the biggest problem. What's known as the biggest bleeder, right? What is the one thing that's causing the biggest stumbling block in your vocal technique? Fix that one thing, then all of a sudden it clears off 3 or 4 or 5 or multiple different other problem areas in your in your voice. And so that's what the domino effect is. When you know what that main stumbling block is, that one major thing, and we all have them, we all have it, that one major stumbling block, you fix that or adjust that or improve on that, and all of a sudden your breathing improves. All of a sudden your pitching improves. All of a sudden your rhythm improves. And we see this happening all the time with our students. Now, the final reason why practicing with intention is important is because it helps you to gauge your progress. So let's think about it. If you're approaching your practices with so many different areas that you want to improve, well, you could actually be making progress on one of those areas, but that progress can go unnoticed simply because your attention is scattered. If you don't notice these incremental improvements that you're making and you don't celebrate that, then it's very easy to feel disheartened, to feel discouraged. Okay, so now that you know what practicing with intention means and why it's important, how do you know whether or not you're practicing with intention? Well, this is an easy one. If you can clearly and succinctly define and summarize what you focused on during your practice session in one sentence, then you know you are practicing with intention. So that's a pretty good rule of thumb, or a pretty good guide, I would say. If not, and you find yourself saying, well, I kind of did this, and then I worked on this, and then this part I didn't really like, so I was working on that, that's not really a clear one sentence description. So that will be a really good way to know whether or not you're practicing with intention. Now, finally, how do we practice with intention? Well, there is definitely a process behind this, but I'm going to give you 4 simple tips that you can take action on right away, and hopefully that will give you a good guide and get you moving in the direction of practicing with intention. So tip number 1 is you want to set an intention for your practice session that's very, very specific. So for example, say you want to work on your high notes. Well, that's not very specific. High notes where? Okay, high notes in this particular song. Okay, where in this particular song? In the bridge. I want to work on the bridge. Okay, and what specifically do you want to improve about that high note? You can ask yourself this question. If your answer is, well, I can't even hit it, right? Well, then your one specific thing that you would be focusing on is just hitting that note. Just making sure that you're hitting that pitch of that note and you're doing so in a comfortable way that's not forced. So that's quite specific. I want to work on this specific song and this particular part of the song, the bridge, this particular note or these particular notes. And I want to be able to hit these notes on pitch and in a way that isn't strenuous or shouty. All right, so that's tip number 1. Now, tip number 2 is to break your practice sessions into smaller chunks. And so what do I mean by that is it's always better to maybe spend less time but being very focused, as opposed to spending a lot of time and then having your attention and your energy kind of scattered. That's also very tiring if you do that, especially if you're not used to vocal training regularly. So I would recommend focusing on just 1-minute sections of your song. So not focusing on the entire song, focusing on 1-minute sections. Now 1 minute is actually quite a lot. If you think about an average song is about 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes long. So you're already tackling a third of a song for that 1-minute practice. That's a lot. There's a lot you can do and explore in just 1 minute. The exception to this is if you are practicing a song for a performance that you have to do. But that practicing for a performance is very, very different in approach to practicing for skills development. Tip number 3 is to set yourself a time limit. It could be 10 minutes, it could be 15 minutes, or if you are used to vocal practicing, you can spend a little longer. If you feel like you're getting stuck, you're trying too hard, it's starting to get strenuous, it's a really good indication that you need to stop, take a break, and potentially you might need a whole new perspective. Go outside, change your environment, then you can come back to your practice session at a later time. Whatever I share with you is things that I do myself. So I practice what I preach. And I can't tell you how many times where I've been going through this process and there's like a note or something that I'm working on, and I'm seeing progress, I'm hearing progress, and all of a sudden it feels like I hit a wall, and I don't know why, right? So then I take myself, I know that about myself. I take myself out of the context of wherever I am, take a break, completely do something different, disengage, do something different. The minute I come back and I try that same section again, boom, all of a sudden everything comes together like magically, and I don't know why. Well, I do know why. It's because sometimes we get ourselves into a rut. So we have to catch that about ourselves, and we have to become aware that that is something that is normal. Now, the final tip here that I want to share with you is more to do with mindset, and it's to go for incremental progress, not mastery or perfection. If we go into a practice session thinking, I'm going to nail this or bust, we are setting ourselves up for frustration and just potentially mental and physical exhaustion as well. And it can be very discouraging when we allow ourselves to go down that line of thinking. Those tiny little improvements, you want to celebrate those. Don't discount those. Suddenly, if you're like, oh, my pitch is better. Don't just say, my pitch is better. Oh, but then all these other areas kind of didn't sound very good. No, no, no. You focus on those incremental moments of progress. Those accumulate, and those are the ones that lead to the biggest transformation down the line. So that is my tip of the week. Again, to summarize, we talked about the importance of practicing with intention. We talked about what that is. We talked about why it's important. And also I shared with you 4 tips that you can apply to your own practices to help ensure that you are indeed practicing with intention. Now, before I sign off, I want to remind you to check out my free 3-part mini training. It's brand new. It's called The First 3 Steps to Free Your Voice. And it's designed for anybody who relies on your voice a lot for work, or anybody who feels insecure about being heard and you want to use your voice with more confidence and to make a bigger impact on your listeners. Then this training is going to set you up and help pave the way towards discovering your voice and freeing it and discovering its brilliance. Until next time, I'll see you again for another tip of the week. See you next week. Bye-bye.